بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم وما يؤت الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في قرآنه المجيد: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والمعفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأس والضراء وحين البأس أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك هم المتقون. صدق الله العظيم. God says in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 177, that righteousness is not that you turn your faces towards the east or the west. True righteousness is one who believes in Allah and in the last day, in the angels, the books, and the prophets, and gives wealth in love of Allah to relatives, to orphans, to the needy, the travelers, and those who ask for help. And he who frees captives, establishes prayer, and gives zakat. Those who fulfill their promises when they promise, and those who are patient in poverty, in hardship, and in times of stress. Those are the ones who have been true, and verily those are the righteous. My name is Hasnain Zaidi. I'm a Duke alum. I graduated Duke class of 2008, and so this is the last year that any of the faces in this room are actually familiar to me, I guess with the exception of Abdullah. Everyone that I know or that I knew during college will graduate at the end of this year, and so it's an interesting feeling for me to come back and be here before you. It's a tremendous honor, and I'm humbled and grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today on Yawm al-Jumu'ah. I'd like to start off with a memory from my childhood because that's shaped me and who I am today. Allah ke waste bhai. It's an Urdu phrase, and it means, for God's sake, big brother. I remember that phrase clearly because when I was a kid, we would go to Pakistan for family holidays, and the moment we stepped out of the airport, we'd be surrounded by these little children. Each of them dirty, grimy, underfed, with these big eyes and beautiful faces, all looking at you expectantly, pleading, for God's sake, please help us. Those words are etched in my memory and continue to be because they went straight to my heart. The same God that has blessed me with so much, that gave me health, that gave me happiness and shielded me from the sorrows and the troubles of this world, these people are asking me for help in His name. Those are memories that I'll never be able to let go of. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today, is service for God's sake, of being used to our fellow humans. Because in my mind, that is at the very essence of what being a good Muslim is being of use to your fellow human being. But before we even get that far, I'd like to spend a few minutes reflecting about why it's important to know what it means to be a good Muslim. It's something I've been thinking a lot about recently. Osama bin Laden was killed this weekend, and while his death doesn't change much, it was a victory. It was a big victory for everyone in this world that cares about peace, that cares about harmony, and that loves one another. But it was in particular a victory for Muslims, because Osama bin Laden and his ilk, the extremists and the peddlers of hate, they laid claim to the mantle of Islam, and they sullied the name of a religion that is founded on tolerance, on peace, and on love. But they're not the only ones that seek to brand Islam. If anything, recent times have shown us that there are others right here in the United States where freedom of religion is actually a constitutional right, who seek to brand Islam out of ignorance and out of bigotry, and seek to brand it as a cancer that must be cut out of American society. So now, more than ever before, it's important for us to know what we believe about Islam and why we believe that. Because if we don't take the time to reflect, if every time we turn on the TV, we hear news of someone that said Allahu Akbar before taking an innocent life, or we're forced to constantly defend our beliefs and defend the actions of people whose actions we didn't support and whose actions we don't tolerate, it's very easy to lose faith and lose your grasp on it and be disconnected. In the world after 9/11, we can't afford to be Muslims on autopilot. We can't just do and we can't just be. We need to think about our beliefs and we need to know why we believe them. There's a rule in the world of marketing. It says that if you don't define your brand, somebody else will define it for you. And so we must know our brand. We need to know it so that no one else can ever misrepresent what Islam stands for. Because you and I, the young Muslims of America, we are rays of hope. Each and every one of us is a one-man or one-woman PR campaign who through our lives and actions can show people what Islam is all about. So that when people see us and see the way that we behave with others and the way that we conduct our lives, they'll look at us and be like, huh, so that's what being Muslim is all about. I can respect that. For me, the ayah gets to the very essence of what it means to be a Muslim. 3 things, very simple. Believe, be good to others, and be mindful of your religious duties. Now, I have no reason to believe that those are in any particular order, but I do think that it's worth noting how much of that ayah, and it's a long one, is dedicated to being of use to others, of giving wealth to the needy. The ayah also makes a subtle distinction. It differentiates between believing in the pillars of Islam, believing in the last day, observing worship and giving zakat, and it differentiates between those things and between giving to the needy and to those that need it. It expands on the idea of giving wealth. It says that you must give wealth for love of Allah. In my mind, that brought up the question, but don't I pray for the love of Allah? Do I not believe in the last day for the love of Allah? Why in particular is giving wealth singled out as the thing that should be done for love of Allah? And I could think of 2 reasons. The first reason was that Allah was telling us to give out of love for Him. Don't give to the needy out of any expectation of material gain in this world. We shouldn't give for the sake of honor or glory or fame. We should give because Allah asked us to and because somebody needs it. So in a sense, in this ayah, Allah is exhorting us towards altruism. The second reason that I could think of is that there's a distinction between things that you do because you need to do them and things that you do out of love for someone, right? The best example that I could think of was actually, it had to do with Mother's Day, right? Mother's Day is on Sunday, it's coming up, and I could think of my relationship with my mother. When I go home, I make my bed. That's what you do at my house. You can't leave your room until you make your bed. I don't get any brownie points for doing it. I don't get anything nice for breakfast for doing it. I make my bed because I have to. It's no big deal. On the other hand, I call my mother every day. Regardless of how my day has been, every night before I go to bed, I pick up my phone and I call her just to talk. Now, that's not expected of me. In fact, many times she's told me, you know, you don't have to call me every day. But I know that it makes her happy. And so out of love for her and to gain her happiness, I call every day. And so it seems to me that the ayah points out that we have duties to Allah because they are expected of us. And then there are things that we do out of love for Allah to gain His happiness. Now, to be clear, treating others with respect and dignity is something that we have to do. But going out of our way to be good to people is something that we do out of love for Allah. Now, I did a little bit of a trick there. The ayah doesn't say anything about being good to people. It says to give to the needy. It says to give to the needy. But wealth can be very broadly defined. You can think of wealth in terms of the material that you have. You can think of wealth in terms of the time that you have, the knowledge that you have, or the experience that you have. Wealth is an accumulation of all the things that you have that are of value. And all of these things can be given to others and to those that are needy. And thus, our life can become one of service and one where we can put ourselves and our being in the service of other people. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا في الدنيا والآخرة إنك على كل شيء قدير. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى أصحابه ومن والاه. It's an interesting time for me to be back. I was just talking to Ahmed, and the academic year is over for him. He just did his last exam. And so for some of you, not only is the academic year over, but the entirety of your academic career is over. And so, at the end of the year, it's a good time to reflect and to actually think. One of my favorite things about Duke while I was here was the commitment and the passion that people have to service. Everyone at this community seems to be giving back in their own way, whether it's volunteering, spending time at a charity, working in student government, with an organization, tutoring, mentoring. Everybody gives back in some way.